Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of our podcast, Is Breakfast Included? How are you guys doing? Good? That's great. That's really great. On today's episode, I sit down or talk to my good friend, Denise Simpson. Now, Denise is a lighting technician and an artist based out of Columbia, South Carolina. We met on a previous gig and became pretty good friends. But what I didn't know until I started talking to her was Denise was kind of born into this industry. She knows a little bit about everything. Her mother managed the box office at a venue, and she kind of grew up in it and is very knowledgeable in pretty much just about every aspect of the live part of this industry. Currently, she's working a little bit in audio, but specializes in lighting and has recently become a lighting designer. It was a great conversation, man. I can't say enough about Denise. She's a great person. She's an amazing artist, and we got to know her a little bit better. And she also told me what she likes for breakfast. Let's check it out. Tell everyone who you are, what you do.
Hi, I'm Denise Simpson, and I'm a lighting technician and artist, and I live in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yay, Denise.
Yay.
Well, thanks for doing this. Man, first things first, how long have you been a lighting designer?
Well, I didn't actually become a lighting designer until right around like the early 2000s, but I've been working in the field since October 1997.
Wow. And what got you into this industry? Is this something you grew up with or something that you just found by accident?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up with it. My mother was a box office manager for a major coliseum here in Columbia, South Carolina, and she started her career there in 1985. So around about that time, I was 5 or 6 years old, and got to follow her into work and see what she does on that end, and meet all the people that bring shows together in the 80s, which was a little different than it is now. But yeah, I quickly saw, from her aspect, like her working with ticketing and promoters and stuff, the building management people doing their thing. She brought me in late nights, and I got to see the stagehands working all night to like get the show up and running, because back then it was a little bit more difficult than it is now. And also my uncle was on like with the stagehands as well. So I just quickly became, acclimated to like seeing all these people doing all these cool things. And I was like, oh, that seems pretty neat. Maybe I'll think about doing that. So,
so from early on, just by growing up with it, watching it being built,
mm-hmm.
Did you kind of decide then, like, I want to be in this industry?
Yeah, I actually, when you're a kid, you want to do whatever your parents are doing, right? Or, some kids do. I did. I was like, oh, what she does is very cool. And then later in high school, I leaned more towards like, I got pretty interested in like building management stuff, because that particular facility had a really awesome building manager. John Bolin was his name, and he not only like managed the facility, but he would come in and help do rigging and stuff.
Yeah.
So he really set the bar pretty high, So I was in awe of this man. He was just really humble. He was like a hippie from the 60s, and like just really down to earth. And I was like, I want to be like that kind of person, that contributes in that kind of way, where they not only can sit behind a desk and do, stuff to make paperwork and logistics happen, but like they're willing to get in there and get their hands dirty, and, they have no like ego about it. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. The whole attitude of not asking something of someone that you wouldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's how I pretty much grew into like how I carry myself today is, during that time period, there was a lot more people that were just right in there and trying to get their hands on. And like, it wasn't like this big, like, ego party, it was just get it done, and it was get it done with pride. And people were like, just kicking ass. And so I really admired that. And so I carry that with me today. Like, I just do whatever I have to do to make the show happen and make it happen well and make the audience have a great experience also,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's funny you use that term ego party.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I interviewed a good friend of mine, Vince Foster, who's this kind of legendary lighting designer, and his attitude is the furthest thing from that.
Right.
Like, he helps push cases, he helps build.
Yeah.
I've never seen him not working, and never seen him with the white gloves, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I got to be doing something. I want to contribute. I want to help. I want to be sure it all goes in and it goes in well, and not just point and tell people necessarily what to do.
Yeah.
I think it just helps make everything flow better, just to contribute.
Yeah. So once you started in this, did you immediately gravitate towards the lighting rig, or as they say, become a lampy?
Yeah, right. I had no idea. Although I saw all of these, different departments, I began pushing cases in another major coliseum in North Charleston, South Carolina, for a pretty large load, and it was Brooks and Dunn and Reba McEntire. It was 17 truck show. Mm-hmm. So right out the gate, I was like, all right, like pushing cases, and I actually helped in audio that day. And it just felt good, like it didn't matter where I was at as long as I was a part of this, right? But later, when I took a job in a facility in Newberry, South Carolina, I had a really helpful coworker named Johnny Marlowe, and he could see potential in me, and he could see that I was kind of artistic, and he really kind of like drew me into lighting.
Okay.
So he sat down with me and he's like, this is what, gels do. And these are, this is how we're going to focus, and this is how we're going to cue. And the importance of, theatrical lighting. And so he's really like the first person that helped me, like open my eyes to lighting. So.
Yeah. That's funny that you started it. A lot of people that are doing this now don't remember a time when you had to climb a ladder and change the gels and adjust the cans.
Yeah. No, I definitely started in a conventional house. We had a ETC Express 250, and everything was manual focus and gel. And I think it really helped me because it made me think outside the box. It made me say, I have these lights. What am I going to do with these lights? How am I going to hang these lights? Mm-hmm. What can I do to make it better? I don't have to leave this the same every time. I can do what I want. It was just really, cool.
Now you said ETC Express 250. I have no clue what that is.
It's a lighting console. And it's an older one. It came out in the 90s. But, hopefully the lighting people listening will go, wow, that was a long time ago. So, yeah. But, that was my first console. And I just graduated from there. So.
Right on. So you started out as stagehand. I started out as a stagehand as well, pushing cases, helping backline, setting up audio, that kind of stuff. And then you kind of gravitated towards lighting. But you said something earlier. You kind of decided you just wanted to be around it. I know that feeling. I know that. I ended up a guitar tech, but I just wanted to be around it. A lot of people don't know that feeling, man.
That's right.
Or appreciate it.
Is right when it's going well, isn't that energy it's just addictive, right?
Yeah.
When everybody's on it and they're all hyped about it and it just you knock it out of the park. It's just really like a really fantastic feeling.
Yeah. And even when it's not going well, if you have the right crew, everybody
Sure.
bands together, and
Yep.
there's no like, oh, better him than me attitude.
Right.
Like everybody
Yeah.
kind of comes
Yeah.
together and makes it better, you know?
Yeah, that can be very rewarding as well. Yeah.
Oh. So
Yeah.
what's the what was your first like big show that you ran lights for?
Oh my goodness. Well, wow. That's a hard question to answer. At the Newberry Opera House where I worked, it was very unique. It's a very small house. It only has 400 seats. Front of house is only 60 feet away, but we had all of these, in my opinion, really high-end artists. I'm 19 and I'm working with Don McLean, the Beach Boys, BJ Thomas, Lou Rawls, Crystal Gale, Roy Clark. And to me, that's a big deal. So I would say any one of those people that I, flashed a light for was like, but outside of that, I mean, I've run lights for 5 presidents. If you call it running lights, you really turn them on for something like that.
Yeah.
I have recently operated lights for Cypress Hill, Big Boy. These are one-offs, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa Williams, Diana Ross. So many people, because I've been doing this for almost 20 years. But yeah, sometimes even the smallest acts are just like almost as impactful as the bigger acts for me. So
I'm going to ask a question, and I normally don't get political.
yeah,
This is not really political. You mentioned you ran lights for, you did the lighting rig for 5 different presidents.
yeah.
Do you ever let your personal political opinions get in a way? Like, do you ever say like, I can't do that gig. Like this guy's an asshat. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
do.
Yes. Yeah. And there are times when I'm standing there going, this is all wrong. But the only thing that I hope for is quite literally, and this may sound weird, hopefully somebody can embrace it, but I may bring light to an injustice and they speak through the camera and so I'm illuminating their mistake or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I may be if you want to look at it that way, helping for people to understand that this idea may not be right.
Okay.
By not refusing to do it. But in my heart, yes, there's sometimes I'm standing there going, I don't know.
Yeah. No. I get it.
Yeah.
It's very admirable for you.
Yeah. I have, like in a religious standpoint, I've turned religious gigs down because of stuff like that. Like I was like, I don't know if I can take money from, a house of worship or whatever. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I totally get it.
I there are some things, if I can control it, I will absolutely stand my ground. But then if I can't control it as much as I would like to, I try to hope that what I am doing helps bring the truth out. Yeah.
Bring kind of awareness to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, thanks for answering that. I've never asked a political question on this podcast, so you're the first.
Yeah.
So you've also done some road work as well.
Yes.
You've actually toured as an LD. What's the difference between having a house gig or doing one-offs to being on the road? Is it easier on the road, or is it?
Well, luckily, the one and only time I've ever toured, which is where I've met you, yay! It was a fantastic gig, and I was a lighting crew chief for that, and it was just, and perhaps you can vouch for this, it was just, it's almost an ideal situation in my opinion. Well taken care of, everybody was nice.
I know you can't ask for a better crew.
You really can't. Like
the crew that we worked with, like you couldn't ask for a more synergy on stage.
That's right. I would stand off stage, and I actually told, our artist this. I was like, Man, I can't help but cry, you know, watching your show from the side because of how they mean it. They go out there and they mean it and they interact with each other and there is no front. They are almost off stage who they are on stage, and they bring their emotion, and that really, you know, catches me in the feels. So it was important for me to see that. I was not a fan until after I experienced that. But getting back to the technical aspect, because of that, that was a plus and it made the experience even better. But working, you know, with Mikey and for Pulse and stuff during that time, it was really a well put together lighting team. So it just worked, you know. So.
And but do you prefer sleeping in your own bed and just putting in the long hours locally and doing one-offs or festivals or just what they call the concert season?
You know, when I left, I went through a lot of emotions because I still don't know if I'll ever be able to do it again. But I loved that, and I also enjoy this because it's my, you know, my personal, you know, space. But it's hard to give up.
Yeah.
You know? Really, 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 really hard. But so I didn't necessarily mind being away in that aspect. You know, of course I did miss my home life and stuff, but it wasn't as bad as, you know, I know some people go through a lot. I have a really supportive partner, so every day he was like, you're going to kick ass, everything's going to be awesome, we're going to do whatever we have to do. And ultimately it came down to me going, you know, I have to decide what I want to do. But being here isn't necessarily easy either. You know, it's like, you know, this for that. So
Yeah. Pros and cons on both ends, right?
for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. But
Yeah, I've always I like I said, I started out as stagehand. I did a lot of local stuff, and
yeah.
then I was kind of thrown into touring, and
Yeah.
I adapted to it almost immediately. So, when the time came a few years ago when everything shut down, it was hard for me. Do you ever think you will tour again if that opportunity comes around?
Yeah, I've had a lot of offers and I get asked, and you know, I just, for the time being, I'm, you know, putting it on the side. But I think if I had a camp like I was in,
Mm-hmm.
which was you know, an idyllic situation, I think, yeah, for sure, that would be awesome. You know, like I said, I think the hardest thing that I dealt with was just saying goodbye to you guys, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I remember.
Yeah, I didn't handle it well, um but that was, you know, that was happy sad energy, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
because it just meant that you all were just really wonderful to work with, and you made every day, you know, very like, I can do this, you know, like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna kick ass all the way around.
Yeah,
Everybody's gonna have
yeah.
fun and the show's gonna be badass and we're gonna fucking rock this and then go in the bus.
Yeah, it was a like I always
So
say, like I you know, I've recently been in touch with folks from that crew, and it's a completely different crew now. There's very few people
okay.
that are there that were there when we were, but
Yeah.
at that time, I say this and I'll stand by it. That was the perfect crew that we had.
Yeah.
We all got
Yeah.
along. There was no, you know, petty shit on that
That's right.
bus.
That's right. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so you came up from the what was the lighting desk, the console you told me?
The ETC Express 250.
Yeah, and so how did you is it something I asked Vince the same thing, like coming from that the primitive gear to
Mm-hmm.
what everyone's using, the moving lights and so forth and the digital desk.
Right.
Was that a learning curve for you, or did it just kind of come to you?
Absolutely. I think the important thing to remember is, I'm sure this works in your world too, is that everything is ever evolving. So if as a technician you're not keeping up, you're going to get left behind. So naturally, of course, I wasn't keeping up. And so when it came time for me to have to utilize another desk, it was like, climbing this mountain of like, goodness gracious, I wonder if I'm going to be able to get this. And I got it, and we got it going. But, it's so important to just keep on it, right? To just keep your knowledge up and, have a good idea of what's next and what's coming up, and staying connected and networking with people who can help you learn faster. So, yeah.
I agree. Like in my world, like it's always evolving, and it's
Yeah.
evolving so fast that I just get frustrated and go, I'm just gonna wait till analog comes back.
That's right.
And then I can
Sometimes
turn knobs again.
that's right. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. And then I'm like, that's really hard to do too. As far as lighting is concerned, I don't want to go back to double hung truss, um, but we can. No,
Yeah. You love what you do, right?
I do. I do. And it doesn't particularly matter if I'm doing lights. I work for a company right now where most of the time I am not touching a light. I'm helping in audio and I'm helping in video and doing staging, and uh, I'm getting ready to do something where I've, made a few set panels, right? So I just like being involved in production, and doing it well. So
Right on.
yeah.
Whenever you are working in the lighting area, because that's your specialty, right?
Yes.
That's your background.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and you work with like big bands that are coming through, and you're working with these designers that have been touring for years. Do you ever pick their brains, or do you ever like absorb what they're doing?
Yeah. I'll sit there a lot of times and, watch their show with them and see what they're doing throughout the day. I try to be super helpful so that, the more involved I am directly, um, I'm actually learning, right? So, like for example, the recommendation I just sent you was Paul Dexter, who's the LD for. Yes, yes. So, like I spent time with Paul, and I was doing everything from, patching a few little things here and there to, being sure he was taken care of while he was programming throughout the day. But during the evening, I sat there and watched him run his show, and I took pictures and some video, because that stuff is important to me. And come to find out earlier in the day, I mentioned, you know, what I like to do and what I was interested in, and him and Chris McGuire, who also helps. He's a stage manager, but he does lighting for other bands. They came out there and they gave me some tips and tricks, and they were doing everything. Like they were like, "You want us to go up on stage and we can call a focus for you?" Like trying to, because it was really bright sunlight. But I mean, these guys don't have to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They were just being kind, and I, from the bottom of my heart, appreciated it. But yeah, I'll sit with people like them. It's an honor to have someone like that, just try to give me advice. Mikey sits with me and helps me get through some stuff and like figure out programming things, and he's teaching me a few other little things about working with capture and stuff. I've sat with Libby Gray, who's the LD for Styx, and watched her run her show and give her spotlight cues. She's amazing. I've sat with Bud Rock, who is the LD for Willie Nelson, and had a really good day with him. Steve Owens from the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. And they're all just really sweet, really helpful. They'll give you, little tips and tricks and stuff. And it's a great feeling when someone like that wants to, you know, just help you out,
Yeah,
right?
take the time and give you. Yeah,
Yeah, because they can just be, but they're not.
yeah,
They're humble and they're sweet and they just rock.
yeah.
So,
I ran into the same thing when I started. I was fortunate enough to come across a bunch of guitar techs who had a resume that was amazing, and they were kind enough to give me their time and
hmm
tips and secrets. You know,
yeah, yeah,
because not everyone's like that.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, some people just, they're like, anyways.
Yeah.
But,
So, being a woman in this
hmm
industry
yep.
in a position like a lighting designer, do you ever catch any resistance, or do you ever? Has it always been? Have you always been accepted? It's an odd question, but it's a question
Yeah,
that needs to be
no,
asked.
I think it's getting better progressively, like just when I first started, of course I was like 19 and 120 pounds. So it just people treated me differently because of how I looked. And then when you get older, you realize you're like, um, that's not always a good thing, right? People need to respect you for your abilities and your capabilities. Um, so I began to notice it more. But I do think in time it's getting a little bit better. I've met some resistance. Sometimes I'm kind of like, you know, I ignore it. There are other times where I've worked it. I'm like, somebody will try to take something out of my hand and I'm like, great, if you want to pick that up. But I have no problem picking it up, right?
Yeah.
So, um, I just, I try to work around it. The older I get, I probably carry myself better and, you know, just get quieter about it and let the person, uh, embarrass themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I don't get very easily offended. I've heard some crazy stuff and, had some weird stuff said to me and I just, I let it go. So,
Right on. Right on.
um,
Well, are there any plans that you have for yourself? Like, where do you see yourself in this industry? Do you see yourself remaining a lighting designer, maybe pursuing production managing a venue or something like that?
yeah, I think I'm pretty happy doing the little bit and I was super happy doing the lighting crew chief stuff. So I like doing those things. I also like contributing to just putting sets and stuff together. So maybe I'll lean more towards a little more design work than I'm doing right now. I have a production coming up next week that I'm looking forward to. It's pretty local, just a presidential gala for a university that we do every year. And I've come up with a few little scenic concepts, and we do the lighting for these seniors, and they present a show for the president of university.
Yeah. And being an artist, does that come into play with when you do stuff like that? Do work like that?
Absolutely, because I'm looking at my lighting like in a way that the same way I look at my canvas, right? I want it to move people and affect them. I want them to be able to see, the depth and the color that I'm trying to convey, right? So I do try to get my artistic point across, whether it's with a paintbrush or with a light. I just, you know, I really try to make my stuff impactful and colorful and stuff. So,
Right on.
yeah.
Denise, thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me
Yeah.
today.
Thank you for talking to me.
I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
The podcast is called Is Breakfast Included? And
Yeah.
if it was, what would you have for breakfast?
What would I have? I would have scrambled eggs with cheese, toast, and a half a waffle and coffee.
Just a half a waffle?
That's right. I like to share, so I'll share with whoever I'm around.
Right on. Well, thanks
Yeah.
so much, and good luck in everything you do.
Thank you, Bernie.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right on, Denise Simpson, lighting designer extraordinaire. The next time you go to a show, pay attention to the lights, because it's not so easy as just pushing buttons and making them come off and on. There's a lot of work into that. And sometimes, like at festivals, they get there the night before and start programming this shit. And it's really cool to watch it all come together. Well, all right, guys, I am done. Have a great day, and I will talk to you next week.